Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The administration of the University of the Hospital of the West Indies has taken issue with what it says is the premature release of Jodian Fearon's autopsy results. An update from Kirk Wright.
Prominent physician Dr. Jeff Ford, who was hired by Jodian Fearon's family to observe her autopsy, yesterday shared that she died from a heart failure alone on the ground at the University Hospital. Dr. Ford further shared that Jodian had a long-standing heart condition called cardiomyopathy, which makes it harder to pump blood to the rest of the body. In a release today, the UHWI said it notes the misinformation in the media regarding the coroner's examination performed on Ms. Fearon yesterday. It said it strongly disputes the misinformation and premature sharing of autopsy findings prior to the determination of the cause of death. The UHWI says the cause of death is usually pending further ancillary testing. That's a point which was also agreed to by General Surgeon Dr. Alfred Dawes while speaking on Hotline with Emily Shields this morning.
I think Dr. Ford is going to be asked to explain himself based on the allegations that he made publicly, and this is just the beginning of that. It's difficult to say at the time of autopsy because you're looking at the organs and the specimens that are removed, but you have not examined them under a microscope as yet. You have not done any toxicology tests and so on. So whereas you can look and say, all right, this heart looks big, it looks like there was heart failure because there's fluid in the lungs and so on. You still have to wait on the examination under a microscope to see exactly what it is. Any other tests such as toxicology and so on, liver samples and so on would have to come on board before you can really say this is the definite cause of it.
Ms. Fearon died over the weekend, hours after delivering a baby at the Spanish Town Hospital. She was initially a patient at the privately run Angels Memorial Hospital, but was transferred to Spanish Town Hospital after she began to show respiratory symptoms thought to be due to COVID-19. Her COVID-19 test was negative. Before she was accepted at the Spanish Town Hospital, attempts to transfer her to the Victoria Jubilee or the University Hospital were turned down. Her death and denial of care are now the subject of several investigations. Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, Public Defender Arlene Harrison Henry is calling for caution as information is disseminated about the death of Jodian Fearon. She was speaking on Radio Jamaica's Hotline with Emily Shields a few moments ago.
But I think we need to be careful how we make pronouncements in public space without having the fullness of all the reports in, so that, for instance, cause of death is fixed within a certain kind of context. We're cautioning against it. It is not, I'm not going to say it's wrong, it is just less than prudent.
When you look at a post-mortem report, for example, if you ever done a murder case, say a gun murder, you'll see the final line, cause of death due to hemorrhagic shock. But if you read above, you'll see other things, secondary to gunshot wounds.
Yeah.
So in most post-mortem, they are usually secondary causes, but usually there's a one-liner. And it's sometimes not the safest thing to do to conclude or to act upon that one-liner alone.
And the attorney representing the family, Isat Buchanan, is calling for the government to ensure that going forward, there's transparency in the investigation process. Mr. Buchanan said it was difficult to get Ms. Fearon's medical records from the hospital involved prior to the start of the autopsy. The issue was rectified after seeking the help of the media to highlight the problem. Mr. Buchanan, who was speaking today on the Morning Agenda program on Power 106, said the matter is already being tried in the public domain and transparency is important.
So to protect the interests of my clients and the narrative, it is important that the documents that they are privy to, we are also privy to. What happened yesterday is very frightening, to say the least. The actual idea that you are in possession of documents and you don't want the attorney and the medical representative of the client who has it is her privacy, and you're saying we cannot see it, but we must facilitate an investigation.
A partnership with private doctors across the island is expected to help the government manage increased numbers of patients at health facilities. At Wednesday's meeting of Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee (PAAC), Permanent Secretary in the Health Ministry Dunstan Bryan explained the two mechanisms that have been introduced to help patients. Over 100 general practitioners have been asked to see the regular flow of patients at clinics and other healthcare facilities. Mr. Bryan expects the new arrangement to significantly help the health system in several ways. The second mechanism outlined will see doctors using telemedicine, where they can attend to patients using a technology-based communication platform. The country's agricultural sector is now taking a beating as curfews and drought conditions have left farmers counting their losses. For details, we have this report.
Since the country has gone under an island-wide curfew, farmers have been complaining about the lack of markets for their produce. Majority of them, which spoke to our news team, said they have had to be discarding of their produce due to the glut and hotel closures. But President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, JAS, Lenworth Fulton, on Wednesday told TVJ News that the situation could get worse in the drier summer period. He's predicting a significant monetary fallout.
My wild guess would put it over $1 billion now, with the drought and with the backup in the fields. This is a massive, massive change of operation for us going there to take farmers' produce. This is not government's role and responsibility. It just happened now that there's a crisis.
As to when the agricultural sector will be able to get back to its substantive post as a major marker in the country's economy, Mr. Fulton said it is based on two factors, namely the flattening of the COVID-19 curve and rain in agricultural areas.
Those farmers with irrigation, we'll have to target them and ramp up production there. Then those areas of Jamaica that are getting rainfall, we have to go there and ramp up production and deal with it on that basis and tell the farmers who are on the dry areas, those in Centon, Clarendon, St. Catherine, where things are kind of dry now, we want them to prepare their land so that when rain comes that you depend on, you go right into production.
For now, Mr. Fulton says what can be done is for farmers to take their produce to other markets across the island instead of depending on their traditional markets. The JS president, however, hastened to note that while that may be done, the measures instituted by the health ministry must be maintained.
I want to say to farmers, if you're going into these locales, try and see if you could get in touch with the local parish council so they could make the arrangement for you. Because we are advocating that wherever you have the lines to buy your melon, it will be good if hand sanitizers are there, hand washing things are there, if it's in a playfield area, Mapotolo is there. And the mayor in each capital should be contacted to make some of these arrangements. Because you don't want to come and one person join up in that crowd and spread the disease.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And it's now time for our break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have much more stories right after these messages. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. The parliamentary opposition is suggesting the government hold talks with Geotech Vision to provide tablets for children. Even though the court ruled that the termination of the contract with Geotech Vision was invalid, the company said it would seek to recover damages from eLearning Jamaica. Now that so many children do not have access to electronic devices during the COVID-19 crisis, opposition spokesman on technology Jodian Robinson made this suggestion.
Given that we have 19,000 tablets in the country in a warehouse sitting down, that we initiate, obviously taking into consideration all the legal matters, some form of dialogue with that company so that children who are now struggling because they can't access education can.
Sympathetic with the intention expressed, and you know, it is something to be considered, but I couldn't go further than that.
Spokesman on education Peter Bunting for the government outlined the way forward for the sector. Mr. Holness said the minister with responsibility, Carl Samuda, should make a statement to Parliament next week. And just an adjustment, we said that even though the court ruled that the termination of the contract with the Geotech Vision was valid, the company said it would seek to recover damages from e-learning Jamaica. A crash hotspot in Portland is now being improved, and for the details we join Dwayne Anderson.
May 21, 2019, a date that Titchfield High School in Portland and the family of Pranjil Jasti will never forget. The young man was killed in a bus crash on the winding, steep Black Hill Main Road in Portland. When I visited the area shortly after the fatal accident, locals said the crash was one of several road tragedies that happened at this area, and they called for the area to be improved. This steep corner is where most of the crashes happen. Once the unfortunate vehicle cleared the metal barrier, it plunges to several feet below. In fact, after several crashes, the metal barriers had been totally destroyed, meaning a car that careened from the road had little hope of stopping. But nearly a year later, our news team visited the area. What has changed? Well, the cries of the people have seemingly found listening ears. Work crews and heavy machinery were seen undertaking improvement work. The National Works Agency, NWA, is undertaking the rehabilitation. Their plan for the area specifically addresses the need for the road to be improved following crashes. The improvement is to cost $17 million and is expected to be completed in 2 months. The NWA says upon completion it is hoped the road will be easier for motorists to maneuver. The slope, which the NWA terms as super elevation, will be addressed by raising the road. The damaged guardrails will also be replaced. In the meantime, motorists are advised to drive with caution along the Black Hill Main Road in Portland, as the road has been reduced to single-lane traffic in some parts to facilitate the road work. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, some vendors in Portland say they are being targeted by the police for selling in the streets when they have nowhere else to go. One vendor explained how her goods were damaged by the police on Wednesday.
I was here selling my mango. I realized the metro van coming. I took up my mango, run in the shop with the mango. They run in the shop and draw away the crate of mango from me, spill out the mango on the roadside in the street, take up the boxes that are covered on the roadside because it's social distance. I cannot pack up the load in the shop again. I have it on the roadside, pack up, they throw it in the metro van and scatter the East Indian mango all on the ground. The metro come out and kick away the mango and go into his van.
She says several reports were made to the Portland Municipal Corporation. She says selling in the streets is all she can do to help provide for her family, since efforts to get a stall inside the market proved futile.
I write Chamber of Commerce a letter, and nowhere I can get a space to sell. Everywhere I go, they turn me down. In the market, when I go and walk and pint out stall, they say that the stall is leaking. I walk myself and look for the stall. They say that the stall is leaking. In the New Brand Market, that fix up. So I don't know what else to do. I cannot just go home and stay in. I have 6 kids to provide for, so I have to out here selling on the roadside to also bring home something for them.
While acknowledging that street vending is illegal, PNP candidate for Eastern Portland, Dr. Purcell Jackson, condemned the actions of the police and pleaded to the authorities to be more lenient.
I'm just saying, let there be a level of discretion and understanding that even given the whole matter of COVID and people seemingly are displaced, they can't find food to eat, and the whole 9 yards, use some discretion. Give some kind of leeway, but this kind of heavy-handed approach is not good.
Communities in and around Mason Hall in St. Mary will soon have piped water. This after Member of Parliament for Western St. Mary, Robert Montague, officially signed a contract for a water project yesterday. Mr. Montague highlighted that the timeline for the completion of the project is not set in stone, but it's expected to be done in 2 years. Therefore, he's asking residents to be patient.
This project is going to take us 24 months. I know the documents, Massage say 18 to 24, but I am putting it at 24 because many things can happen. And I ask for the patience of the people to say that from 1990 to today is 30 years. And to wait 2 more years is a long stretch, but it not going to kill you. Not kill you.
He said 2 major housing projects, including an NHT scheme, are scheduled to come on stream.
Without the additional water coming from Bogue and Pottinger Spring, you couldn't build that scheme. And the improvement and upgrading of the Lighthouse Road scheme, those 2 schemes, you're looking at an additional 600 households into the community.
The Western St. Mary MP said the project is expected to provide jobs for residents, but gave this warning.
Based on this project, for man to put on their name and collect money, but no work. Me no join that church. Everything me have to work for it. Say Councillor Hutchinson there as a lady, have to work hard for what she want. So no big greyback man. Now I go sign down their name, Mr. Thompson, on this project. And both them are done. And that them must get paid. But they mustn't work.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news and production teams, good afternoon.